Hello and welcome to Side Thoughts with Shorty, a show where I, Shorty E, ramble at you for an undisclosed amount of time about anything and everything that pops into my mind. We find ourselves right now strolling peacefully into episode 2. Not kicking and screaming. I thought I'd have to drag you here, but no. We're strolling peacefully into episode 2. We know slightly more about podcasting and video podcasting and all that, whatever it is we're doing here, but only a slight bit more. Episode 1 was pretty good. I liked it. You know, as evidence that we are going to chat about anything and everything on this podcast, the first episode was all about Twitch streaming, video game streaming, all that kind of good stuff. The second episode, well, we're going to be talking about ghosts and shit. Yeah, that's right. You heard. We're going to be talking about ghosts and shit, right? We're going to be taking a deep dive into the paranormal and talking all about that. Before we get there, though, I just want to take this time to thank you all for listening, watching, whatever it is you're doing, taking time out of your day to just appreciate somebody's content. I know the edit's weird. I know the sound is weird. I know the videos could be better. I know the graphics could be better. But this is early doors, and we're just having a bit of fun. We're just testing the waters. So I thank you for listening. And if you've listened to that first episode and you've returned to this one, you must be wanting more, right? Must be wanting more. So here you are at episode 2. We'll see if you want more after this one, eh? But as with all podcasts nowadays, I have started a Patreon. Ooh! So you can go over there and support me. There's a few different tier options, available. I'll run you through it all, later on in the podcast, but right at the very end. Because quite frankly, if you get through this episode, you deserve to treat yourself to a Patreon sub. That's what I think. So if you make it all the way to the end, you can treat yourself to a little Patreon tier 1, 2 or 3 membership. Got it? With that in mind, let's crack on to the show, shall we? Coming up in this week's episode, we have got my paranormal ponderings. I'm calling it that because we're just going to chat about, what is the paranormal, what are ghosts, and just very briefly go over that whole fucking topic initially. Then we're going to take you in my personal ghostly experiences. I'll talk you through one of them. A pretty interesting one, I think, and kind of talk you through my beliefs. And because we're talking about ghosts and shit this week, we're going to talk about the idea of ghost hunting TV shows and if you should watch them, why we watch them, are they good, are they bad, all that kind of stuff. Are they fake or are they real? And then to finish off, we'll talk about some of my recommendations for ghost hunting shows that I enjoy watching at the moment, because there's quite a few of them that I watch. Buckle up if you like the sound of that. Keep on rolling. If you don't like the sound of it, just get off. Get off now. You might as well jump off the ship. Because it's going to be 30-40 minutes of ghostly ramblings. I'm calling this first section of the podcast this week Paranormal Ponderings. The reason I'm calling it that is because I think this could become a regular feature on the show in general. When we get a format and a structure, I think we can have a paranormal ponderings feature. So I'm just getting a name in there, just to kind of really copyright it. And I think we're gonna talk about just things that happen in the paranormal world, all that kind of stuff. But this time round, because it's episode 1, we're gonna really skim the surface, and we're just gonna go straight in, and we're gonna try and answer the question: what is paranormal? Like, what is the paranormal? I'm going to start off by saying I'm by no means like an expert in any of this. I'm very much an armchair expert. I watch a lot of stuff. I read a lot of stuff. I don't really do a lot of it, right? So I'm by no means an expert in anything I'm going to talk about. So I'll probably get things wrong or frustrate people that know what they're talking about, and that's fine. But I think it's important to sort of lay the foundations in this episode so that we can go deeper into subjects kind of later on in life. In future episodes, we might go more into specific beliefs, specific systems, more into the facts around the paranormal. But I didn't want to jump in there straight away. I thought it was really important to document my uneducated opinion, where I'm at now, and just kind of throw that out there. And like I say, maybe annoy some people, maybe not. Maybe you think the same way. Let me know. At some point, we'll have to come back at this episode and laugh at what I was saying, because it's probably very uneducated. So we'll take it from there and we'll see where we go, okay? So let's start by trying to answer the question, what is paranormal? What is this word? What is paranormal? I personally believe, outside of a dictionary explanation, you have a word, an area that's often misunderstood. People hear the word paranormal, they automatically jump to aliens or fucking little green men or ghosts or whatever. But it's if you say something's 100% paranormal, that you mean it's 100% ghosts or aliens or some shit like that. And I don't think that's the case. Paranormal is literally just anything that's not normal or that's unexplainable in normal science, normal everything, right? If you hear a bang in a building or a voice, whatever, and you've checked everything out, and you could claim that to be paranormal. Because if you can't explain what normal means, then by default it's paranormal, right? That's semi-factual until it's proven normal, whatever normal is. Although that's possibly still, it's a really grey area because it's still counted as an opinion rather than fact because you can't prove then it's paranormal. But can you prove it's not normal? That's kind of the... If you can prove it's not normal, if you can prove there's no other means there, then yes, it's paranormal. Doesn't mean it's ghosts or little green men. It just means it's not normal. And I think it's as simple as that in terms of the basic definition of the word. And most people, when they're discussing the paranormal as a whole, they jump straight into ghosts. Is probably the first thing in people's minds. Then aliens. Most people go straight to ghosts when discussing the paranormal. If you say paranormal, people think of ghosts, right? But it can be aliens, it can be conspiracy theories, it can be Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. All have claimed to be paranormal because none of these things are actually normal, right? Anything that's not normal is probably paranormal. So in this episode, we are going to be looking specifically at ghosts, those things that kind of linger around after death. Your grandma still sitting in a rocking chair, that murderer still knocking about with an axe trying to get the best of everyone. And we're going to try and answer the question now of what are ghosts? What are ghosts? Fuck knows, in all honesty. But when you ask someone on the street what a ghost is, some people just outright tell you that it's just fucking made up bullshit, they don't exist. But the general consensus of a ghost is, the spirits or a soul of dead people lingering around after death. They haven't quite gone to the light. They haven't quite gone to heaven or hell, or they haven't quite moved on. They've still got kind of business to attend to here on Earth, not gone to their final resting place. That's kind of a general accepted explanation of ghosts, I guess, of what ghosts are. Generally, amongst everyone, they believe they could interact with the living world. They can interact with us, they can interact with objects, they can interact with furniture, people, emotions, whatever. And whether that be in a positive or negative way. So most believers in the world will suggest there's probably a selection of good spirits that are just there kind of knocking about, saying hello, looking after you, guardian angels over your family. Oh, it's just your granddad. He's looking after you now, kids. He's up in heaven, but he's always here with you. He's looking after you now, darlings. Don't you worry, he's looking after you. There's that kind of nice spirit. And then it'll also suggest that there's demons and there's evil spirits that are there to murder you. Johnny the Axe Murderer's back, and he's trying to take his next victim. He can definitely hurt you in your sleep. He can definitely possess you, all that kind of stuff. Most believers will say there's kind of two sides. How extreme they want to go, who knows? But they'll probably, if they believe there's nice spirits, they'll believe there's bad spirits. A lot of people in the paranormal world, you'll hear talking about residual energy, and residual energy is kind of where a human's less an impact on the kind of energy in that specific place. So if there's a big emotional event or a very repetitive event, it's said that will continue to play, that stays in that section of the world. And if there was a murder there, that will just keep replaying because that emotion, that energy is in that area. And then occasionally some of that will seep through to the living world. And that's our residual energies. They won't ever interact properly. You'll just get glimpses of it. Kind of like something on repeat. Then others will talk about intelligent spirits. Intelligent spirits are the ones that interact with humans. They're the ones that will interact on demand. If you ask them to bang on a wall, they'll bang on a wall. If you ask them to spell their name out somehow, they'll spell their name out. They'll use Ouija boards. They'll fucking steal children. They, they probably won't steal children. I don't know if that'll make the edit, but if you're hearing it, it's made the edit. Why would a ghost steal a child? It could happen. Could happen. You know, I'm not. If it happens, you heard it here first, right? If there's a ghost child snatcher on the loose right now, you heard it here first. What do I believe ghosts are? I think it's really important that I answer that question, because that's why you're all here. You're here for me, right? And as I said, I'm uneducated in this field. I've never properly ghost hunted. I've never done any of that stuff. I watch a million different ghost shows on YouTube, on TV. I've researched a lot of stuff. I've looked into stuff. You know, I know people who do it. So I like to think I'm semi-knowledgeable, but I like to think I'm knowledgeable, but I'm definitely uneducated. The idea that residual energy exists, it seems too far-fetched to me. The idea that doing something repetitive or with enough energy and emotion, that just kind of plays on a loop over time, and people will hear like the occasional bang of like an axe going into someone's head. I don't really get on board with that side of things. I mean, I don't disbelieve it, but to me, that's quite far-fetched. I don't believe there's just energy there that's just playing a sitcom on repeat. I'm really not convinced that, you know, if there's just a big traumatic event like a murder, that the walls and floors and the energy around it are going to absorb that. Like, have you lived in a house in Britain? Walls barely absorb heat. They're not going to fucking absorb the energy of a fucking murder. Right? So that idea seems too far-fetched. But however, the idea and the concept of a dead person living on in spirit form in some way and being able to interact with the living world, that doesn't seem that far away from reasonable to me. Scientifically, yes. But actually, if something's going to be here, it's probably going to be intelligent, I think. Now, do I believe it's dead people's... Like, do I believe when I die, I go in the ground or I get set on fire, and do I believe that I, Shorty E, will live on and be able to interact with the world? Not necessarily. Do I believe that potentially my spirit and soul could take another form? And do I believe that it could know my history and interact as me? I think I'm inclined to believe that. Now, don't ask me why, because I don't know. I'm as bad as all you guys when it comes to this. We all believe what we believe for whatever reason, and no one can prove anything wrong or right either way. But that just sits better with me. I'm not sure about the whole idea of moving towards the light and going to a heaven or a hell and all that fucking baloney. But I see no reason why your spirit can't live on, and it won't be me or talk like me or act like me, but it can know who I was and it can act like me. I see no reason why that can't be a thing. It's a very weird concept, and I feel like I've explained it fucking terribly, which is really bad for a podcast host, but stay with me here. Intelligent spirits just seem more tangible than residual spirits. What's the point in residual spirits? And if that was the case, surely me being here, typing every day at work, surely I'm leaving a lot of energy here. So surely my spirit will just sit here and type away, and occasionally you'll hear like a clatter from my keyboard. Occasionally you'll hear that, because that's what I do here. But that's not right. If that's how it worked, that's surely what would happen. I suppose, more to the point, what I actually believe in is kind of like another realm or another plane of existence, whereby there is something else there. There's something else around us, an energy, a life force that we can't see or interact with, we can't detect with science yet. I believe ghosts are a science lecture waiting to be written. I think one day there'll be a genuine breakthrough that will have to be acknowledged fully by science and fully by everything, and for there to be a living existence that isn't just us on Earth. What that is, fuck knows, but at some point we've got to understand what's causing those spikes in EMF, what's causing those bangs, what's causing your dog or cat. Has your dog or cat ever just looked like in a doorway and there's fucking nothing there, but they look terrified and they won't stop looking? What are they looking at? The same with little kids, right? They say little kids, before their eyes fully develop and brain develops, all that kind of stuff, that they can see this extra realm. And we know dogs can see a little bit extra. We know dogs kind of have this extra sense. What if it's just an extra sense we don't have? Or that we have evolved not to have, for whatever reason. That's what I think. And, you know, that's the short answer. Do I believe in ghosts? I guess yes. Because if you believe in one stupid theory, you've got to believe in kind of everything, because you can't disprove anything. I'm not a skeptic. I'm not a believer. I have to see things to believe them. But I'm open to kind of anything, right? I'm open. Now, speaking of seeing to believe things, this brings us nicely on to the next section, which is ghostly happenings. And I'm just going to tell you about something that's happened to me. But I want to make it very clear, since I've been interested in the paranormal, which is probably the last few years I've really gotten into it properly. Like, my girlfriend Laura, she fucking loves that shit and always has done. I kind of stand the outside, but actually, the last few years I've really kind of gotten proper into it. Like, I love it. It's very interesting, very entertaining as well. Since I've gone on this interest in the spirit world, I've not done any kind of like active ghost hunts or anything like that, or tried to investigate myself. But prior to all this, I have had a couple of experiences that I just simply cannot explain. I'm not going to say I'm an outright believer. I'm certainly not a debunker. I'm certainly not a skeptic. I do have to see things for myself to believe them, so trusting other people is really hard with this. I am open to something else existing, and there are plenty of things that happen in this world that we just cannot explain. Plenty of things that happen daily that people cannot explain. Some people look into them and investigate them. Others just fucking throw it out the window and just go, meh, it was just a noise, whatever. But all these things happen around us that we can't explain. Some just more inquisitive than others. What I always do is I'm always trying to look for logical explanations to things, but some things just defy explanation. And the beauty is that everyone sees things differently. Everyone hears things differently. Everyone has a different point of view. What one person thinks is paranormal, the other one thinks can be debunked. What one person thinks can be debunked, the other person thinks is paranormal. And I think it's really good. There's some undeniable stuff. A lot of people go out there to deliberately debunk people, some of which deserve it. Most haunted. And others maybe not so much. But that's the beauty of these things. Everyone sees things differently and everyone brings things to light, right? Someone who generally goes out on ghost hunts might get some evidence, but they might not realise that their phone was switched on. They might not realise that, oh, actually, this can happen with old heating systems, or this happens here at this time. And that's why I think it's important for people to always be challenged when they're presenting evidence. That happens in science. It happens everywhere. You present evidence, people challenge you on it. It happens in day-to-day life. And I think that's good. But what's worth noting in all of this is that no one has proven ghosts exist yet to enough degree that science says yes. No one's proven that ghosts exist. And I think likewise, categorically, no one can say ghosts can't exist because of the same reason. Scientists will have a go, right? And you know, the idea of it being a dead person's soul or spirit, they pretty much throw out the window, right? That probably is gobbledygook. But the idea that there's another plane of existence somewhere, or something else out there that surrounds us, science is mostly open to. They're not going to tell you it's a dead person because biologically that person dies, right? That's it. Dead, gone, kaput. Physically, they're open to the idea that there's other physics they don't know about. And in that regard, of those things in mind, I think everyone's opinion on ghost hunting is valid. Whether you're debunking stuff and trying to prove people wrong all the time, or whether you're trying to get evidence, I think everyone's equally entitled to be in that space. And I think it's important that both sides get along. There is a fun side thought here, though, with all of that in mind. It's what passes for factual ghost hunting and entertaining ghost hunting when it comes to TV shows. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But right now, though, I want to take you through something that happened to me. For those that know me, you may know that my other half, Laura, has a podcast called Gin and Spooks. I shared one of my stories with that podcast about what happened to me when I was working in an old building and windows decided to keep opening on me with no explanation and no one in the building other than me. And that's kind of explained on there. So if you want to hear that story, feel free to go across and check that podcast out. I would recommend it. It's very, very good. However, I'm going to talk about the second and only other real paranormal experience I think I've had. And it's an interesting one, and it's one that I don't like sharing because it's very personal opinionified, and it's very, you have to kind of go with me on it. So let's tell you this story. I used to work at a big theme park called Alton Towers. Within Alton Towers, you have the actual towers themselves, which is the old building, Most Haunted filmed there, a few other ghost hunting shows filmed there in the past. It's a big, old, impressive building and full of lots of haunting. One of our team building activities, some of the managers would run like a team ghost hunt night. Now, when I say team ghost hunt, I use that word very, very fucking loosely, right? There was one guy, probably out of the managers, who was really genuinely into the paranormal stuff and wanted to kind of do it seriously. Generally speaking, it was kind of a team building night where you'd do a fake seance and someone will throw stones and everyone shits themselves and everyone runs away and everyone's like, oh, what's that over there? With a hint of like real stuff, right? Because this was very early on in the year, so we didn't really know each other that well. But a group of us were asked to go off if we kind of wanted to do something semi-serious, to go with a guy to do a seance. One of the managers do a seance who's led seances before, like I said, fucking loved his ghost shit. Now at this time, what I will stress is I had fuck all interest in the paranormal. I probably wouldn't have said I was a believer. I probably would have said I was a skeptic or fucking very much a doubter. Like, I had fucking zero interest. Like, I had that other situation happen previously, but even that hadn't tickled me pickle with the paranormal. It was just kind of out of interest. So at this stage, I'm stood there in a circle with some people I knew, some people I didn't. All people that were my teammates, right? And all people that are quite happy to take the piss out of you. We're all holding hands, we're all doing this seance, and we're in a part of the towers. And I want to stress that I'd never been in this building before in my life. I'd never been there. I'd only ever been to the theme park once, years prior, but I'd never been in this building in my life until this night. Which is an important part to the story. So we're doing this little seance, and we're about 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in. I'd felt nothing. I was kind of just like, what the fuck are we doing? We're just stood here holding hands like a bunch of melons, listening to this guy who I don't really know ramble about some nonsense. Anyway, we go silent for a few minutes in complete darkness, and I start getting some like images coming to my head, and I'm kind of like, what's going on, lad? My head was blank because seances can be quite relaxing, apparently. So my head was kind of blank, and then just these things started ticking over in my brain, and I kind of thinking, that's an image. That's an image. And the guy leading it was like, if you're starting to get anything come through, feel free to say it out loud and we can talk it through. At that point, I stood there and I was like, I can't say what I'm feeling because I don't believe in this shit. If I start saying stuff, I'm just going to come across like a bit of a dickhead, and everyone's going to go, what is this guy about? Like, and if they don't think that, they're going to think I'm a plant because the rest of the night has been a bit jokey. They're going to think they've sort of said, oh, about 10 minutes in, just start saying you see this shit. But genuinely, I'm stood there, and this image just keeps getting stronger, like to the point I can really, really start to feel it. I can start to see it in my head. And it's gotten to the point where it's getting a bit unbearable. And I held back and held back and held back. But I started getting quite a headache because it was really starting to get clear in my mind. I could see this coat of arms. Now, fucking no shit, we're in basically an old castle, right? So if I'm going to think of something that might pop to my head, it was this coat of arms. I think there was probably a sword, and it was a coat of arms, so there was swords and whatever, and a shield. And then there was this writing in Latin. Well, for me, it was writing in English, and I just said out loud what this was because I genuinely everything was telling me to say it, and I'm not that much of an outgoing. Well, I am, but I'm not much of an outgoing person amongst strangers to sort of say, mate, I can see a shield and some words that says fucking live, freedom, die, or whatever it said. It didn't say that. So I say this out loud. And he goes, that's really interesting. And he takes us round into this next room. And fucking no word of a lie, on this wall was a fucking shield and a coat of arms. I'd never been in this room before in my life. Didn't know it was there. Was a coat of arms that matched my description. The wording in Latin. The words was in Latin on this shield. But it was the same expression of words or the same kind of meaning when translated. That freaked me out a little bit that night, I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm glad the night ended not long after that because I went in kind of for a jokey night and came out thinking, what the fuck was that? And it's really puzzled me, and I've never had an experience like it since. Now, could it have been that there was some Darren Brown shit going on and he was using suggestive language throughout the night? I mean, I guess, but why did no one else pick up on it? And he wasn't that good. It definitely wasn't that. The only thing I could put it down to, because the feeling was so strong, was that it was something paranormal fucking with me. Or giving me that signal. I genuinely felt like if I didn't say something, that my head was going to explode. Like it was giving me a headache. But it was just because it was clear with this image in my head. And that was really weird. And that was an experience of something messing with me. And I never really delved into it after that, right? I kind of push it to the back of my mind, but it comes back occasionally in my head, and I'm like, what was that? What was that on that night that made me think of something I'd never seen in my life and describe it accurately? And I'd love to go back and do a ghost hunt to the towers. It will never happen. It was round the corner from me. But it was a very, very interesting evening for that. And we come back to that word, the only word I can use to describe that is paranormal. Because I did not feel normal. That was not normal to me. It was paranormal. Whatever it was paranormal. And, I'm very open to you guys all sending me in your experiences if you want to. I don't know how many episodes like this we're going to do, but we might talk about them at some point when we come back to it. Drop them in the comments, drop them in Discord, wherever. Moving on though, so that's kind of my experiences. A lot of people share their experiences by creating ghost hunting TV shows. And they're everywhere now, right? You can't move for them. They're on TV, they're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, they're on streaming services like Netflix and Discovery Plus. They're everywhere. People are really into ghost hunting at the minute, or at least that element of ghost hunting. It's probably fair to say that every ghost hunting show that exists raises a lot of questions. Probably raises more questions than they answer within the shows, right? And none more than the biggest ghost hunting show in history, Most Haunted. While there was other shows prior to Most Haunted, like back in the day, like decades before, there was some paranormal shows like on MTV and some bits and pieces. Most Haunted was the first one to really gain a fucking phenomenal audience worldwide, right? And it's not wrong to say that it's the one that kick-started this entire genre of programs to be created. It's inspired a lot of people to create. I mean, obviously, since that time, they've been brought into a wealth of controversy with ex-producers, ex-hosts, ex-people visiting the show, people that went to live shows to say that some parts or most parts of the show were overacted or fake or set up. It's not a secret anymore that parts of that, a large part of the successful time of that show was set up and fake. A large part of that show was. While that's kind of tarnished their legacy, it's fair to say that they paved the way. Those early years of being brave and creating that content, they paved the way for a fucking huge industry. That a huge industry of ghost hunting shows to kickstart. You know, whether that's Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Kindred Spirits, Dead Files, Ghost Brothers. I could go on and on and on forever. There's hundreds out there. There's been some that have come and gone. There's been some that have stayed. There's been absolutely hundreds, right? And none of that happens without Most Haunted being the first ones there to create that worldwide audience and create that demand for people to see it on TV. I don't think any of that happens without it, but it's just sad it came to them taunting that name, right? That does bring me on to, right, talking about these shows. They must be really fucking hard to make. Now, I don't want one. I probably never will. But there's got to be a really hard balance between displaying evidence, right? Legitimate ghost hunting evidence. Sometimes the lack of evidence, because let's not forget, these people are in a house for like 6, 7, 8 hours. They're on location for that long. And fuck all might happen. So you've got to sort of weigh up displaying that versus the entertaining factor of the show. Because if you put out episodes week after week after week of someone standing in an empty church shouting, "Show yourself, where are you?" at fucking brick walls and nothing happens, will you last an entire season? Will you get renewed? I'm going to go and say probably not. Right? I think there's a very clear line here, and because at the end of the day, we all watch TV to be entertained, right? Even if you're watching a factual TV program or a historic TV program or a David Attenborough program, yes, you're there to get his knowledge, but actually, you're mostly there for the visuals. You're mostly there to listen to the voice because his voice is entertaining. You're probably there to learn some stuff, but you're there to be entertained. So there's no harm in entertaining people, right? In the ghost hunting world, why is the harm in entertaining people? But there's probably no harm. But faking evidence in the paranormal world to get the entertainment and claiming it as real is quite frowned upon for obvious reasons. And it's probably something that should never be done without claiming that it's an entertainment show. If you're going to claim it's a ghost hunting show, then it's got to be legitimate. If you're going to claim it's an entertainment show, then does it really matter? Is it the same as, wrestling? Predetermined outcomes, but all the moves are real, all the pain's real, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't take away from the enjoyment factor at all. So, there's a clear balance, and it's two very different things, I admit, but there has to be that fine line between entertainment and fact. Some shows will attempt to make up for the lack of evidence with host banter or some fun games and quirky hunting styles, and I think that's quite cool. But this can sometimes, take over and distract from the actual ghost hunting. And when you distract from the ghost hunting and you're too much of the entertainment factor, you kind of lose the ghost hunting passionate people, the passionate paranormal people. You lose them because they see you, because you're having fun, and that's all you really show because you've had a shit night. They don't see you as a legitimate, And if you're working for a network like Discovery Plus, for Netflix, or for whomever, but there's a real pressure to make sure people tune in week after week after week. And that might push your choices in terms of what you want to do with the show. If you're working on YouTube or working up for yourself, you haven't got the external pressure, but you've got pressure to keep up your views. If you want to make a living out of this, you've got to get those views in, you've got to get that ad revenue, all that kind of good stuff. You've still got to get it. So the pressure's still there to make an entertaining show. Is there the same appetite for a show where you watch, generally speaking, middle-aged men strolling around an abandoned building, shouting at the walls for 6 hours whilst nothing happens? I feel like that market's quite small in reality when you compare it to the wider entertainment world of people who want to see kind of exciting ghost hunts. Arguably, the middle-aged men staring around shouting at walls for 6 hours is more credible, because, they show you that, and they show you the fact that not everything happens all the time. But how do you keep people coming back that aren't those hardcore ghost hunting enthusiasts? And there's a real big difference between people who watch ghost hunting TV shows and people who are passionate about ghost hunting. There's a real clear real defined difference. And I'm going to make a fucking beeline here. I'm going to compare it with the trio of Clarkson, Hammond, and May, whether they're on Top Gear, Grand Tour, whatever the fuck they're doing now, doing something with a farm. I think James May's cooking. I don't have a fucking clue. Hammond's probably crashing cars. But we compare it here, right? And this is a prime example of how things develop. So when Clarkson and co joined Top Gear, the show was a very factual motoring show. If you look at really early episodes of Top Gear, it was all about the cars. There was a little tinge of humour, but it was all about the cars, all about what's coming next in the motoring world, all about horsepower and engines and man stuff, right? And slowly over time, and at that point, ratings were low. They weren't fucking low, but they were low. And slowly over time, people realised that actually Clarkson, Hammond, and May were quite a good trio. People started tuning in for their host banter. People started tuning in for their challenges, for their fun stuff. And now, when you watch the later episodes of Top Gear, when you watch the later episodes or any episodes of the Grand Tour or whatever else they fucking did, it's not about cars at all, right? They've completely alienated the motoring world. Yes, they fucking twinge it about cars because that's their selling point. But it's about them three, and it's about them three having a good time or just doing whatever the fuck they do to each other. And it's exactly the same in the ghost hunting world, right? Why is it a bad thing to entertain people? And twinge on the idea of some facts being sprinkled in there, here, there, and everywhere. And it's a bit of a fucking weird thing, but you know, car nerds and Top Gear is the same as ghost hunting nerds and Most Haunted, probably. Right? Ghost hunting nerds aren't going to like Most Haunted because it's not about the real ghost hunting, but general public who want to watch something entertaining might like it. Now, for me, I really like a nice balance of both of them. I like to be entertained. I sit down at night to watch TV to be entertained. So I like something that's easy to watch. I obviously draw a line at fucking fake evidence, right? Fake evidence. If it's very clearly fake and you're going to claim it as real, just get in the bin. So Most Haunted, you can get in the bin. Overacting, pretending everything's a demon or whatever, Ghost Adventures, get in the bin, right? I don't like any of that. But people do, so that's fine. They can go off and do their own thing, but that's not for me. You know, I don't like it when everything's claimed to be demonic or they're deadly serious in an attempt to be believable. That's just boring to me. I like just genuine people who walk into a building and, you know, they try and get a bit of evidence, but they also try and have a laugh with it. And I'd rather watch, it's a bit controversial, I guess, but I'd rather watch the shows where people get scared and scream and run away than the shows where people sit there really miserable and pretend everything's demonic and try to build tension. To me, the shows where people scream and run away are probably more genuine than the ones trying to build tension. So the guys that scream and run away, they're just overemphasizing a normal reaction, right? If you're in a fucking abandoned asylum and something fucking bad's on the wall, you're probably going to shit yourself. And now, consider me breaking the fourth wall here or whatever, but when I stream, people watch my streams just so they can scare me and just so they can see me scared. Now, if that same thing happened when I'm off camera, I will still fucking jump and I will scream, but I may not scream as loud. I think anyone who has a camera pointed at them at all times are aware they're on camera, and by pure accident and human instinct, and because of the person you are, you probably emphasize your reactions because you know you've got to emphasize everything for the camera. So that's why people's screams come across as louder, more terrifying, more horrific, more fucking awful. And that's kind of what happens there. And I think it's a very similar scenario. But I don't mind watching that because I think it's overemphasized human reactions as opposed to trying to deliberately build tension and create a story. One thing I do not like in a lot of paranormal shows is they'll walk around with like an obelisk or something to record a voice. They'll get the word like lemon. The word lemon will come up, and somehow they'll translate that back to being about, a Civil War soldier whose grandma probably used to like lemons because she went to Cuba once and had a lemon in her vodka. Right? They make weird, fucking stupid attachments to one word, single words or single phrases. Now, I'm all for making stories, but that is just clutching at straws, right? There's some that are quite close, fair enough, but the clutching at straws nonsense that some people do, I don't get it. I mean, I can see through it. I can get over that because when you're in the heat of the moment, you might make that connection. Heat of the moment decisions and all that. But yeah, it just ruins it a little bit for me. What I do with all of this, anything I watch, if I want to go into the ghost hunting side of stuff, I watch the evidence. I watch the show. I take out the evidence and I make of that what I will, whether I believe it, whether I don't, whether I choose to follow it up. And I will just kind of digest that. I won't take it how they've presented it to me. I will just say, oh, look, there was a silhouette there. It was probably this, and I'll make my own mind up. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm right, because I wasn't there at the end of the day. All these shows, you're seeing 40 minutes to an hour of a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hour, 2-day investigation. They've cut a lot of shit out to get to this pinnacle of evidence, this pinnacle show. So you kind of have to take everything with a pinch of salt, because a lot of shit gets edited out. And you have to trust the edit, right? You have to trust the edit, you have to trust the producers to not be fucking with you. And that goes that goes with like content creators on YouTube. You have to trust everyone that this shit you're being told is real. All in all, if you're into this kind of stuff, there's a fucking fuck ton of content out there at the minute. And I encourage everyone to go into YouTube rabbit holes. In Discovery Plus, I'm not sponsored, but it's a great app if you love your ghost hunting stuff. You've got your ghost adventures, you've got your ghost hunters, you've got Paranormal Lockdown, you've got Jack Osborne. He's a fucking brilliant ghost hunter, right? Brilliant ghost hunters, created a lot of good shows, really good shows actually. Recommend him. But there's just a wealth of stuff available everywhere. There's stuff on Netflix. There's just a wealth of stuff. So just get out there. Watch the evidence they're producing and just make up your own mind. That's what I'd say. With all that in mind, it's now come to the part of a show that I really enjoy, because it's the bit where I get to recommend you guys some stuff to watch. Now, these are going to be ghost hunting TV shows or YouTube shows that have recurring series, recurring episodes that you can watch. These are just ones that I enjoy. I've tried to strike the balance between ones that I think provide some good evidence and ones that I think provide some good entertainment. First up on my list of recommendations is something that's quite new to me, actually. And it's gone kind of straight to the top of my list. And it's called My Haunted Hotel. It started up on YouTube in 2022, so as I'm recording this, last year. And it's based at the King's Head pub in Chester. Now this pub's been owned... Well, it's a pub and hotel. So this pub and hotel has been owned by a guy called Harry for the last 10, 12, so many years. He's always wanted to kind of investigate properly at the hotel. So he had this idea where he would fit cameras in every single room of the bar, the hotel, and that includes the bedrooms. So he's got cameras in all the bedrooms and everywhere in the bar. So we can see what's going on at all times, which is pretty cool. But the most unique thing about it is that as a paying member of public, you can book a stay in that hotel for one night, or multiple nights if you want, I guess. You have access to some ghost hunting equipment, and the second you set foot in your hotel room, you are basically conducting your own investigation. And that investigation is recorded. It's monitored live by the guys in a control room, but it's recorded, and they produce episodes based on what the general public experience. Now, obviously, you get some ghost hunters in there as well, which is cool. You don't know what you're going to get each week in terms of the people turning up. You always get the three hosts, Danny, Brett, and Harry. And they've got their own little banter going on there, quite funny. But actually, some of the evidence they produced there over the last sort of 12 months is outstanding. And I'll flash up some clips, but they've had chairs moving, doors closing. They've had some creepy-ass fucking voices. And it's just very interesting to see. And I would recommend watching it from the first episode from series 1, because you really get to see the hotel change. But not only that, you get to see stories build. And because they do this every fucking day of the week, you get to see the recurring evidence as well, which is really kind of a unique... I've used the word unique a lot in it, but it's because it is. It's a unique experience, and you don't get that kind of documentation of a haunted place anywhere in the world, I don't think. So get yourself over. I am determined to go there to stay one day. I have been there for food in the pub. That was quite nice. Quite nice. I had a Hustler burger. Watch the show and find out why that's unique. Why that's not unique, but it is unique. But watch the show and you'll find out why that's quite funny. I am determined to go there and stay. I really want to not only go there, stay and experience their offering, but I also want to go and try and make some content for you guys. I mean, I've got no ghost hunting equipment. I've not got any cameras. I might do a vlog from my phone or something if I go, but one day in the future we will go there and we will experience it, I promise you. But until that moment, we will deal with the YouTube episodes. And the VHX episodes, they've got a subscription model now, so get yourself on over. The next show I want to recommend is a TV show called Kindred Spirits. And this show is hosted by Adam Berry and Amy Bruni, previously of Ghost Hunters, alongside their psychic medium Chip Coffee. I never know which one it is. And they investigate a lot of, Americans' most haunted places like asylums, but also individual people's homes and farms and all that. The reason I'm recommending this is most ghost hunting shows are about people being scared, building up tension, and running away from things, doing everything in the pitch black, all that kind of stuff. But Adam and Amy really have a whole different vibe. They are just, you can tell they come from the ghost hunters camp because they're just so chilled, so relaxed, and it's a genuinely relaxing show to watch. They prioritize telling the ghost stories. They don't tend to try and get the ghost to knock on walls and stuff. They do a bit of it, but they're more about telling the ghost stories. They do a lot of their voice work, so I expect a lot of like EP work, all that kind of stuff. And they try to tell those stories, and it's just really relaxing to watch. All the episodes are available on Discovery Plus, but it's just a really peaceful time. And I'm not a big one for psychics, and there's a couple that I trust, and Chip's one of them. Some of the stuff that Chip picks up on is really quite emotional and genuine, and seems to reach across in terms of the story. And I think it's a really good way of portraying a different side of ghost hunting. Speaking of mediums and a different side of ghost hunting, the next one I'm going to recommend is The Dead Files, also available on Discovery Plus. I've only really gotten into this recently, and there's like 15 series of it, so I've not watched it all. I've watched some at the start, and I've watched some of the most recent series. The concept of the show, it's quite a unique offering in the sense that you've got two people. You've got retired NYPD homicide detective Steve DeChevy. I think I've said that right. And you've got psychic medium Cindy Kaiser. She's recently taken over from another medium called Amy Allen, who I don't know too much about, but she seemed quite good as well on this show. But we'll talk about Cindy's episodes. The idea is they're both investigating the same property. Okay? So there's this haunted house, and they're both investigating it. But what happens is, Cindy and Steve do not see each other until the very end of the episode when they reveal their findings to the client. So they don't talk to each other, they don't see each other. So what happens is, Steve will go do all this homicide-y detective stuff. So he'll go talk to the homeowners, he'll talk to witnesses, he'll gather evidence, he'll go to the local police stations, history banks to try and find out all the juicy gossip on the site so you can see, what happens there. And then parallel to that, or the night before or whatever, separate nights, Cindy will go into the property. Never seen the property before. All kind of photos and personal objects are covered up by the crew before she goes in. And she'll walk in and kind of give her reading. If you've never seen any work that Cindy's done as a medium, I recommend just finding all of her stuff. She's done stuff on the Holzer Files and a bunch of other shows. Her work is just phenomenal, and she will go through and she will talk you through what she's getting. Now, with psychic mediums, I've said it before, I've never you have to believe what that person's saying. You have to believe that they've not done research. You have to believe that they've not been to the property. You have to believe not talked to each other, right? There's an element of belief here. And in Cindy's case, I'm fully 100% behind her because I've followed enough of the stuff that she's done to know what she does. And I've seen her get it wrong as well. Right, which is what pushes me to believe her even more. But she will go in, do a reading, and she will get pretty much everything bob on. To the point she's naming names that Steve's found in his research. And you'll see her talk through it the real. And she'll go, so I was picking up on this guy called James, and Steve's face, the camera will just cut to Steve's face and it'll just be like, how the fuck did you know this guy was called James? And it's just mad. So I'd recommend watching it. It's the Dead Files, available on Discovery Plus in the UK and in the UK as well on Really. I would very much recommend it. It's a very, very, very fun show. Next stop on my whistle stop tour of ghost hunting shows, we come to the Ghost Files. Now, I told you I was putting some in for entertainment purposes, and this is the one. Because they do hit the funny bone, like, every episode. So you have Shane, a skeptic. Ryan, a believer. For those that recognise those names, they kind of made a name for themselves under BuzzFeed Unsolved. They very much are quite light-hearted in what they do. Some will say disrespectful. I don't think so. I think it's done right. And basically, it's Ryan going in there as a believer, trying to do some ghost hunting. Shane does partake in the ghost hunting as well, but Shane gives a lot of like the generic funny stuff that someone quite sarky would say at a ghost hunt. And it's brilliant, right? They do get some evidence. They don't get as much as any other shows because there's a lot of messing around. But, it's really fucking entertaining to watch. It's on YouTube. Just give it a Google. One thing I really like is a couple of things. They do after episodes. So after the episode's aired, they'll then go back and recap the episode and they'll talk about some of the things they said, debunk some of their own evidence, and go through some like viewer comments and go through some of the things viewers have said about the episode. But also at the end of every episode, they use this tagline, which I'm going to read because I think it's a really, really, really good tagline. And I think every ghost show should use it. And it's this. It's normally read by Ryan, so it's normally a lot more dramatic. And it's our job as presenters is to collect evidence, questions, possibilities. Interpretation, however, solely belongs with you. And I think that's how you should look at any ghost show. People are there as presenters to present the evidence to you in whatever way they see fit. Present the questions, present the opportunities. And you've got to interpret that how you like. And I really think that's quite an insightful thing for people who watch these ghost hunting shows to keep in mind. And the last one, and it's certainly last but by no means least, it is some of the originals. It is Ghost Hunters. So the Taps crew, Jason, Steve, Tango, and Sharia still going strong. They bring that old school style approach to ghost hunting shows. They will go in, they will talk to the owners of the property. Then they'll do their ghost hunt. Then they'll do some research. Then they'll do another ghost hunt. Then they'll present their findings. It's very old school. It is very relaxed in that Ghost Hunters fashion. There's little bits of drama, but they don't tend to override stuff. They are just, as I said earlier, some middle-aged men, and Cherie, walking around, shouting, talking to walls, hoping something happens. I think they've got some of the best audio equipment going on shows, so like some of their live EVP work I think is outstanding. I think they pick up a lot with that. But I just enjoy nothing's ever blown out of proportion. Steve has a fucking wonderful narrator's voice. And it's just a nice program to watch because it's just some of the originals. They started 2004-ish, like not long after Most Haunted started getting popular. Ghost Hunters started. And they gave birth to some fantastic presenters in Amy Bruni and Adam Berry as well, who went on to have Kindred Spirits, as well as some others. So go watch Ghost Hunters, they're still going. They're on Discovery Plus. Go say hi. So that's it. That's it. Episode 2. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed my deep dive into ghosty stuff. I say deep dive, but there's a million things I could say, and I'm sure we will. So we've kind of just skimmed the surface there. And I'm sure we'll go into it more in future episodes. We'll go into more specific stuff. And, if you have enjoyed it, if you could drop a comment wherever you've enjoyed it, drop a rating, drop a subscribe, drop a follow, all that stuff. Hell, if you hated it, let me know why. Give me some grief. Everyone loves a keyboard warrior. Give me some grief in the comments, guys. Fucking hell, come on. Come at me. You've made it this far in the show. You might as well give me some grief in the comments if you've made it this far. If you have any stories you want to share, whether it's ghost stories or just normal life stories, I'm looking for funny stories, ghost stories, horror stories, stories from work. They don't have to be long, just little short anecdotes. I'm looking to do some listener kind of story stuff, just something that's funny. Maybe not serious because I'm not a serious person. And we might talk about it on a show soon. But if you really, 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 really enjoyed it, I mentioned earlier I have started a Patreon. Now, I have a few different tiers available. I won't go through each tiers. I think there's 3 tiers. The lowest one starts at £5 Great British pounds. That's about as much as a pint in a bar nowadays. So it's nothing, right? £5 British pounds. But some of the tiers will give you, you'll get a shout out. Some of them get you access to Patreon exclusive posts and blogs. Some of you get access to the scripts I use. Yes, there's a script to this show. That's why I keep looking over there occasionally. If you're watching on YouTube, there is some show notes that I can send that I'll be putting up there to kind of show you my insane ramblings. And for a limited time only, all new patrons will receive a welcome message from me, a personalized welcome video message from me, Shorty. I know you've always wanted that. To thank you for being a member. So feel free to subscribe. That offer is going to be available until Halloween 2023. So the 31st of October 2023, that will end. Kaput. But it will still be available as one of the higher tiers. So get yourself over and join the Patreon family today. I'd fucking love it if you did. You don't have to, but I'd love it if you did. So that is the episode done. That's all the adverts done. All that's out of the way. We've done all the formalities. I'm now just trying to find a way to end the episode. You've probably noticed if you've watched any outtakes that I struggle to start episodes. I also struggle to end episodes. It's very odd saying goodbye to people that you can't see. It's much more easy when it's on stream and you see people saying goodbye backwards. Backwards? Don't know what that is. Ibdug. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Again, just please do all the normal stuff that content creators say. All that subscribe here, like here. If you could do all that stuff for me, that'd be great. Feel free to share it with your friends. I don't know why you would share that you're watching this nonsense, but if you fancy it, share it. For now, though, I have been Shorty Yee. This has been my side thoughts, and you guys are free to go. See you next time. Bye.